that Tim Tebow has finally been released by the New York Jets. Of course, they wait until after draft weekend is over when they probably realize that was their last-ditch opportunity to trade the guy. And yet, NFL teams still chose unproven, untested.
But why would you get... But it's the same thing I went back to with Revis, of why I wouldn't trade for Revis. Why would you trade for a guy that, like Asamoah had been released? Why would you trade for a guy like Revis when you have a guy like Asamoah that you don't have to give anything up for? And especially with the Jets and Tebow, you knew the Jets were eventually going to release Tebow.
Well,
why would you
I
trade anything?
I think that's your biggest difference.
Why would you trade anything for a guy that is going to be released?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's your biggest...
There's no reason to give it up, so the other teams look at it and they go, yeah, you want to trade him because you don't want him, but we know you're going to release him anyway. So we'll wait till you release him, and then we'll make a decision on him.
Yeah. Well, that's your biggest difference between the situation with Tebow and the situation with Revis is, Tampa Bay was willing to trade for Revis because there was no guarantee that the Jets weren't going to release him. So you either waited a full year until he became a free agent and then you become part of a bidding war, or you make the trade for him. In comparison to with Tebow, nobody's fighting anybody for Tim Tebow. Nobody was doing it. Nobody had any interest in doing it. So the Jets were sitting there holding on to a guy that nobody was willing to trade for, and everybody knew the Jets weren't willing to keep him on the roster anyway. So if you did want him on your team, you knew you could just wait till he was released. I think the Jets just waited till after the draft because they figured that would be their last-ditch effort of like, hey, maybe we can get a 6th-rounder for him or a 7th-rounder for him or something along those lines. But instead you end up in a situation where now you have Tebow released. Possibly this kid's entire NFL career is, for the most part, over. Everybody I've heard talk about this situation all morning long has all said exactly the same thing. If he wants to be a quarterback in the NFL, he's going to have to go play in the CFL for a year or two to get
not
film
only to
for
prove
people.
It, but the thing is that he's now a year removed from playing football. The Jets didn't let him on the field. When they did, it was like, punt action, and they really didn't let him play. So it's not like he had time in the NFL to keep growing. They almost stunted his growth because they made him put on extra weight, saying they were going to use him as a fullback and use him in blocking protection and use him in other ways. So now he has to shed that weight. The Jets weren't teaching him any mechanics, so now he has to work with the same guy he was working with before to help work and build on his mechanics. I'll agree with you that I think the CFL may be a good move, but I'm still out there thinking that if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, why wouldn't you take a flyer on him?
Yeah.
Not that you're going to start him, and I would say this to him right away. Blaine Gabbert's our starter. He's our guy. But if he gets hurt, we'll give you an opportunity to step in and see what you can do. But I'm telling you right now, you're coming in as a backup. Straight up. We're not putting in any special packages for you. We're not doing anything special and bringing you in, any amount of time. We're telling you right now you're a flat-out backup. We want you to work on your mechanics. We want you to work on things. And if down the road something were to happen, maybe you'll get an opportunity.
And that's about the best they can give him.
And I wouldn't give him a big contract. I wouldn't give him a long-term deal. Give him a year, maybe 2.
Well, yeah.
A year with an option for a second, or a club option for a second. So it's not even Tebow's option. It's the club's option.
And
but
that's
other than that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But if that's that, I think that's also an option. But I'll agree with you. I think the CFL is probably the more likely option. The Jaguars option is just the option I would like to see. Plus, he's from that area. He would have a lot of people supporting him and backing him. I don't know. I think one of those two moves would be the right move for Tebow.
And that's the thing. I look at this Tebow situation, and it's a very, how do you say, rock in a hard spot type of situation, where for Tebow there really is no, he has no real option that he wants to have. Like, it's not like where, you're sitting there. Like, he's got the choice of the lesser of two evils in his life for what he mentally may want when it comes down to he wants to be a quarterback in the NFL, and that is not an option on his plate right now.
It is an option, I believe, but it's a small option and it's a backup option. He wants the starting job, and I get that. But I do think that, I know you're saying picking between the lesser of two evils. Well, he just got away from the devil. You know what I mean? Like, this is a notch up, I think, from that circus he was just at with the Jets. So that's all the Jets were, was a circus. They still are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you know how many people this year are going to be barking up and down, left and right? Geno Smith, bring in Geno. Bring in Geno.
Very similar to what you saw with Tebow last year.
It's going to be the same thing for Sanchi Sanchinator.
And I think Fife puts a good comment in our chat room about the fact that, wherever you do bring Tebow, it's going to create a issue for whoever the starting quarterback is unless you brought him to a New England, a Green Bay, a Baltimore.
I don't think so.
These teams with the established guys.
I think if you brought him to a team like Jacksonville, it would be a different story. I don't think you have to bring him somewhere with an established quarterback. I really think, because I'll be honest with you, Blaine Gabbert's not much of a difference from Tebow.
Well, Chad Henne outplayed Blaine Gabbert last year.
That's what I'm saying. But Blaine Gabbert, believe it or not, is still going to be a starter on that team.
Yeah, I know.
When
going into training camp, he is their starter.
He is their starter. And like I said, when you bring him in, and I would hold it and say it in the press conference as well, whatever team brings him in, you're coming in as a backup. I would say it in the press conference. We are bringing in, because you're going to have a press conference. You have that press conference.
You got to have a press conference.
When you have that press conference, you specifically say in that press conference, we like Tebow, but we like him specifically in a backup role.
Yeah.
You nip it in the bud early. You don't do what the Jets did and come in and say, oh, we're going to put in this package and you're going to see something special out of us and we're going to surprise team. No, you don't say any of that. We're not surprising anybody. We're not surprising our fan base here. You're a backup.
Very simple concept. Not much to think about, not much for fans to worry about. Very simple concept. Tim Tebow is going to be brought in as a backup. I don't think he gets signed. I don't. I think you're going to end up seeing Tim Tebow out of the NFL for at least a year or two. I think that it wouldn't be hard. It won't be hard for him to find a job in the CFL. You go try to get a starting job there. You bring some highlight plays up. You get, you almost like you're back in college and you're trying to impress the NFL scouts again. Because the good thing is for him, he's 25.
Yeah.
And quarterback's your longest tenured position you're pretty much finding in the NFL. So if he can improve his game.
Well, you look, Aaron Rodgers didn't play right away. He wasn't a rookie quarterback. He sat behind Favre. You look at Steve Young. Steve Young sat for years before he actually got his chance in the NFL. Sitting behind Montana, playing in the USFL. He actually, he didn't play for, 3, 4, 5 years until he got out of college in the NFL. There are plenty of great quarterbacks, that started out that way. So I don't think it's the end for Tebow. But I think he needs to shed that BS weight that the Jets told him to put on. I think he's got to work on his throwing mechanics because, I'll be honest, he doesn't have the prettiest throw I've ever seen.
No.
He gets the ball where it needs to go, but he's got a little bit of a long delivery. If he could shorten that up, I think he'll be all right. And like you said, he just needs to get out there in a positive way on the football field. We know what kind of positive person he is off the field. We need him to be that kind of positive person on the field again. And if he can prove that, and if he can go, say, up to the CFL and do what he did for the Broncos up in the CFL and create some highlights and play really well, other teams may say, you know what? Maybe the Jets just are a circus. Maybe they just don't know what they're doing. Because, honestly, that's what happened with Steve Young. Steve Young went to Tampa Bay first. He was 3-16 as a starter. And Bill Walsh looked at him and that team and said, this guy's a good quarterback. He's just on a really crappy team that doesn't know what they're doing. And he brought him out to San Fran. Told him, listen, you're going to be a backup. But you're going to be Joe Montana's backup. And he learned. And he sat under Montana.
Longer than he wanted to.
Longer than he wanted to, but he was there. And when he got his opportunity to shine, Bill Walsh let him shine. I see it as a similar thing going on here. Tebow was just in a really, really, really bad situation with a really, really bad organization, a really bad head coach, and had nowhere really to go up.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, if you really look at the situation, Tim Tebow, yes, he got the Broncos to the playoffs. He won a playoff game against Pittsburgh. But I have a very hard time believing he's a long-time winner in the NFL. He's got a lot more room to improve, and being with the Jets did nothing but stunt his opportunity to grow as a quarterback. No question about it.